Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo O. This November 8th, we are in 1 Samuel chapter 27. You can always check out the archives right there at Bo Willette and on my YouTube channel and get into the other devotions. These devotions usually run from 9 to 9:30, and it's allergy season and winter, so get out your cool or your warm drink, and hopefully you're ready to go and ready to get in the Word a little bit, get focused in the day. And that's what really the devotions are about, is just going through the Bible and understanding the Bible and getting our brains a little aware of things. We are really in a cool section of Scripture, that's for sure. This area of First Samuel that we've been going over for weeks now is just this narrative of David and Saul. And it's just back and forth, Saul's life, David's life, and how they're intertwined together, and how they relate to each other. It's just very interesting. And you get to really see character qualities in each of these people. Some that are, good, some that are not so good, and some that are just, quite frankly, really bad. And this chapter is so weird, chapter 27, because we just get done chapter 26, and it said that Saul and David kind of had a little bit of a reconciliation, yet Saul went his way and David went his way. And now David, we see kind of what happens after this second encounter that he has with Saul, where he spares Saul's life. He could have killed him, but he doesn't. And it says, and David said in his heart, "Now I shall perish someday by the hand of Saul." So David still thinks that Saul is not telling the truth. So Saul has said, "Hey, David, you're a better guy than me. Hey, that's right, I've sinned. I've done wrong. I shouldn't be pursuing to kill you. This kind of thing. You're going to make a great king." Saul has said the right things, but he hasn't been very consistent at all in kind of his follow up. And so he's really made a skeptic of David. David is very quite skeptical. Now, this is interesting, but I think this morning when I hear that word skeptic that comes out of my mouth, I think, hey, do I make a skeptic of people? Are people skeptical because of the way I am, the way I live? You know, um, Meaning, are they skeptics of the Bible, skeptics of Jesus, skeptics of the power of God because of the way I am, the way I live? Um, and that can be challenging, right? That can be really challenging. You go, "Oh yeah, everything's great in my life." Well, where do you live? "Oh, I live in this wonderful gated community and I have all this, great." And you talk a good game on safety, but it's because you live in you have the money to live in the safe place, and you've been able to go to this college, or you've been able to get that education, or you've been able to do this, where some people haven't been able to do that, and for whatever reason, right? Sometimes it's things on their own, and sometimes it's circumstances that happen in people's lives. But and sometimes the way we come off as boastful or proud makes skeptics of people. People go, I don't know if I see Jesus in you much. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust you. You talk a good game, but do you really deliver? Right? It's kind of the things that we have with a lot of politicians, right? Is a lot of times we don't trust because they're like, "Oh yeah, I care about you. I care about you. I care about you. Oh, we're for you. We're for you. We're for you. We're for your health care." Yet I don't have the same health care system that they're on, you know? It's like I don't get all the perks that they got, right? It's like they live a different kind of life than you and I do. So it makes a skeptic of us, right? We kind of look at it and go, they, it'd be one thing if Saul just came out, right? If, the politician just came out and said, "Oh, by the way, this is how I get rich." It's like I'm in coercion with big money systems, and I know what they're doing, and we have lobbyists and this kind of thing. And if they just came out and said that, then you wouldn't be a skeptic because they'd just be telling you the truth, right? But that Saul mentality comes out and says, you know, it says, oh yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna do the right thing. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do great, and oh yeah, and there's all this kind of remorse, it sounds like, and all there's this compassion, but really, uh, it's not there, right? There's no really show, and so it creates skeptics, you know, of us. And sometimes even in our life, when we say, "Oh, I'm going to sober up," and we don't, we make skeptics of our family. Our family becomes skeptical of what we say, instead of just saying, "Man, I'd love to stop, but I can't." Right? I'm struggling with stopping. Right? That's being honest. Um, but when we say, "Hey, no, I'll do it. I really will. I really will." Right? Um, then again we make skeptics, and David here super skeptical. Now notice what happens to David. You think David would just kind of, man, things would be going rock and solid, right? Watch this. This is amazing. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape to the land of the Philistines. So check this out. He is so skeptical of Saul, and he has reason to be. But here's what he does. Instead of staying in Israel, where he's called to be the king, where does he go? To the land of the Philistines. That's right. He goes to the enemy camp. Sometimes, our fear leads us into areas that we never thought we'd be in. And here David continues to go into the enemy's camp. And, something's going to happen. Man, this isn't what God's called you to do, man. Don't keep going back into the enemy's camp. God's called you to something greater, you know. But David here is like all of us. He's a human, and he runs off of his emotions too, like many of us. And what does he do? He goes in there. Why? Because he says, "And Saul will despair of me to seek me anymore in any part of Israel." So why does he go? He says, "Hey, you know what? Saul will come after me in Israel, but hey, he won't if I'm outside of Israel." And so this is why he does it, right? He's still fearing Saul. And that's a bummer, right? That David's continuing to fall into that pattern. This is a pattern in David's life where he continues to do this, runs into the enemy's camp, fearing Saul, instead of saying, "Hey, this is where I need to be, in Israel, amongst my people, close to the tabernacle," all things that he's mentioned before that he says he's bummed he's not able to do. But here he makes another decision to move away, right? And so it says, "Then David arose and went over with 600 men who were with him to Achish, the son of Maol, king of Gath." So he goes back to Gath. So David dwelt with Achish at Gath, and it says, and with his men, each with his household. So check this out. They brought the whole military's with David, and the military's family is with David as well. And so they really are moving, right? They're really packing up and going. And it says David with his two wives. Remember, his other wife, his third wife, has been given to another person, right? Saul's daughter. So that's an interesting situation. But he has two others that he's with, right? And it was told that Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he sought him no more. So Saul says, I'm not going to go. I'm not going after David. He's over in the Philistine camp. Okay, let him be. Does David need to be in the Philistine camp? I don't think so. God's called him to be king of Israel. But David, for whatever reason, all the little flaws in the human being, all the little tendencies that we fall into, right? He's succumbed to him, and he's now with the Philistines. And so David says to Achish, right, who is the king of Gath, and he says, "If I have found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there." For why should your servant dwell in the royal city with you? David was quite a popular guy, especially amongst the Philistines, right? I mean, let's face it. David beheaded Goliath in front of everybody. Pretty radical, right? It was a hand-to-hand combat, if you will. It was mono to mono, man, one-to-one kind of fighting. And he was pretty popular. And so the king obviously wanted David close to him, keep an eye on his men, but also, man, what a kind of talent to be able to have, you know, this guy in your area. Like really seems like he's friendly, with you. And so Achish gave him Ziklag that day. Therefore, Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah to this day. Now, the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was 1 full year and 4 months. Now, that's important. David gets this place called Ziklag, and then he goes, and then we're told that he's there for 1 year and 4 months. Woo! Some trials last a long, long time, right? Sometimes we are on the run a long, long time. And David has been on the run a long, long time. Some people run from things in their life forever, right? They just keep running. They don't want to face it at all. And boy, have you ever had to face something that you really didn't want to face? A trial you really didn't want to step into? A discussion that you really didn't want to have? All those things. Yeah, we all go through that. But he was there 1 year and 4 months. Now, notice what happens. And David and his men went up and raided the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites. For those nations were the inhabitants of the land from of old, as you go to Shur, even as far as the land of Egypt. Whenever David attacked, it says, check this out, he left neither man nor woman alive, but took away the sheep, the oxen, the donkeys, the camels, and the apparel, and returned and came to Achish. David is working as like a mercenary in a way, kind of a weird way of getting Achish a lot of cash. What is he doing? He's raiding people. He's raiding clans, tribes that have been in this land, these areas, right? They name them the Gershurites, the Girzites, the Amalekites. And doesn't this just blow your mind? This is David. David on the run from Saul. We on the run from our stuff, right? We end up doing things that is just unreal nuts, right? Instead of facing what we need to face, David staying in the promised land, walking through it, seeing how God's going to deliver him in the land of Israel. God has already anointed him as king. David instead fears Saul, runs into the Philistines, and what does he do to earn Achish's favor and continued favor, and to get make some livelihood for him and his crew of 600 plus their family members? He does some horrible things, absolutely horrible. And this is what really a lot of people have a problem facing when it comes to people in the Bible and their relationship with God, is that these people are people, and they are in need of saving just like you and I. They are so flawed in so many ways. Even David gifts in the proper way. And because you're not using those gifts in the proper way, it becomes, man, rough, how you use them. You know, David has gifts. He's a military guy. He has skills, but he's using them in the totally wrong way, completely the wrong way. And so I got to look at my own life and go, hey, is the talents God's given me, am I using them in the proper way? So there was a time in my life where I had to like put aside my certain things because I just couldn't do them for the glory of God. And you have to always ask yourself that question is, can I do this for the glory of God? And if you can't, then maybe it's best that you just set it aside. Because if you do it and it's not for the glory of God and you still continue to go down that road using that talent, it might really, get you in areas that you never wish you would be. And here David is using all of his skill, all of his talent, all of his military, might, and he's using it what? For horrible things, killing women and men, taking all their money, bringing it to Achish, just horrible. And so Achish would say, where have you made a raid today? And David would say, against the southern area of Judah, or against the southern area of the Jerahmeelites, or against the southern area of the Kenites. So what David would say is that, hey, I'm actually attacking Israel. And David would save neither man nor woman alive to bring news to Gath, saying, lest they should inform us on us, saying, thus David did. So basically, the reason why he didn't keep any adults alive was because he didn't want anybody to come back to Achish and tell this king Achish that David was really killing the people of the area of Canaan, that not the enemies of Israel. So check this out. David's on this mission. He, in his mind, he's like, I'm at war against Israel's enemies, and he's going to go against them. But he does this all in the dark. He does this all deceptively, right? Lying to Achish, saying, oh, I'm really killing my own people. I'm really going after Israel. And Achish is like, wow, man, this guy's amazing. He's on our side. He's giving me money. Look at all the stuff he's finding, the ox, the cattle, the blah, 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 the bling that he gets from these raids. He's certainly on our side. And David goes on this stealth mission. Now, could he have just gone to Israel and trusted that God was going to make him king and then go and attack these people and go to war? Yeah, could have. And should he have done that? Yeah. Would he have been trusting the Lord? Yeah. But notice David's doing it a real weird way. He's really, man, roundabouting this thing. And it sounds just unreal. Now, in David's mind, David's thinking, hey, I'm still attacking the enemies of Israel. But he's not doing it really in out and out what we would call a real kind of justified military way, where you have kind of the military going up against the military. He's raiding people. He's living in Ziklag, the area of Gath of the Philistines, and he's then going on these secret raids and taking people out and lying about it. So, man, doesn't sound very well at all. And it just shows how dark that heart is. How many churches would let a guy like King David into the church? Not many, right? Yeah, so much for your hero, right? You wouldn't even allow your hero into the church. That's right. He might sing a good song, but boy, man, he had a lot of blood on his hands, did he not? Absolutely. And there would be a consequence for that in David's life down the road, right? We do reap what we sow. And that is so true. And thus it was his behavior all the time he dwelt in the country. So it's telling us that for 1 year and 4 months, David went on these raids. It's a long time to be slaughtering people. How many people did he slaughter? I don't know. Did it affect David? Absolutely. Is it going to wear on him? Absolutely. It's going to affect probably all parts of his being. And there's no doubt when you read the Psalms, there's so much agony in this man's life, him crying out to the Lord. And boy, you know, he knew he was a person in need of God's mercy repetitively over and over. Do you ever think you can outdo God's mercy? You can't, man. God's mercy extends infinity. It is amazing. If you will humble yourself before him, his mercy is right there to meet you. Unreal. Yeah. Was David getting in the kingdom because of his good deeds? Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh, you know that answer. So Achish believed David, saying, "He has made his people, Israel, utterly abhor him. Therefore he will be my servant forever." So you see the deception it's in play, you know. So a sad chapter, but one that we see that the heart was fearful. The heart wasn't secure in the promise that God gave him to be king in Israel. And he stays kind of consistently doing what he's been doing, in that old pattern of running and staying on the run. And he just can't get out of that pattern. And he's skeptical of Saul, and he does his thing, and and there's a lot of things to think about in your own life. Do you see yourself a lot like King David? Do you see yourself a lot on the run? Do you see yourself avoiding? Do you see yourself not trusting and just entering into that place that God has for you? To stay focused on the Lord. Um, and what do you see in your life like that? Laura says sin. That's right. Missing the mark of God, man, that's for sure. There's a lot of missing the mark going on, right? Now, do you see why when people say, hey, the Bible was written to puff up Israel or these kind of things, you hear these kind of terms, oh, it was a book written by, the people that were, patriotic of Israel, wanting to encourage Israel. Do you see where if you were in Israel, you'd be like, whoa, man, this is our leader? This is our guy. Oh my gosh, what a train wreck, right? Yeah, not a very hero-like chapter or even narrative, right, of Saul and David. It shows just what a mess they are. Remember, they rejected God as their king, and now they got humans, and this is where they're at. Hey, no wonder. It's election time. We got humans too, and they're trying to lead, but hey, they're only human, right? Oh boy. Rough. So, hey, we get to look at ourselves today, see some of us, in King David, in our attitudes, maybe our actions, and really learn how to come into the promised land, come into the place where really God has for us, come to the body of Christ, come into that church environment where we can grow and be nourished properly. So, woo. That's right. Laura says there isn't a single sin that is too great for God to forgive. Yeah, that's what she was talking about when she says sin. There's not a single sin that God can't forgive. That's right. Absolutely. So, wow, what a chapter. And hang on to your seats. Hold on to that one and contemplate that chapter today in the life of King David. And I think you'll be blown away as you just think through this chapter a little bit, especially just riding on the heels of the previous chapter. Man, he had such a great high, such a mountaintop experience, such an amazing time of holding back and resisting temptation. And then boom, wow, it really, the gates opened up. So, a lot like us. Hey, you guys have a great one. Take care. Thanks for joining me this morning on the Devo with Bowo. Bye bye.